right? Arms can be by your sides. And you're using this to feel your midline. So sometimes it can be nice to lift your head and look down at the feet. Obviously, you can't see the feet, but can you get a sense if the feet are pointing straight forward, if the knees and the pelvis, everything's nice and aligned? And then lowering your head back down. Okay, also feeling where the roller is landing on the spine. So using that to notice if you've kind of got one hip that's a little lower or one shoulder that's a little lower. Nice breath in, and with the exhale, we're just going to lift the heels and inhale as you lower back down. As I lower and lift, I'm really sending the breath into the side ribs and keeping some of this toning on the low belly so that as you inhale and lower the heels, you're not just completely letting go of the effort. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. And if you want even a little bit more challenge there, you can start to add a little bit of a circle with the arms. Exhale as you reach and then circle out to the sides and around and down. And exhale as the heels lift. And inhale. And inhale. And exhale. And circle. And of course, you could switch the direction there. And out to the sides. Okay. Yeah. And, all right. Okay, this one is a great stretch for the shoulders and the upper back. I've got my feet hip distance apart. My hands are coming over the elbows. Okay, this one I call bent elbow shoulder circles. So it's a great stretch for the upper back, a great mobility exercise for the shoulders with a little bit of balance and stability since we're on the roller. So I've got my elbows bent, I've got my hands right over my forehead, and there's this feeling with the whole back of the forearm and pinky side of the wrist of pushing up towards the ceiling. So you're going to feel that bring a little bit more pressure in your upper back into the roller and a little bit of the shoulder blades kind of spreading away from each other. So I'm pushing up and I'm drawing my elbows as close together as is comfortable here. Now I'm going to slowly start to reach back behind me, and I'm reaching my fingertips towards the floor as my elbows continue to reach kind of up towards the ceiling and back. Once I've kind of reached my end range, I'm taking the elbows out to the sides, the hands peel apart, and then I'm separating my hands and just circling all the way down towards the hips and repeating. Elbows together, a little bit of a push up. And now I can feel a little bit of this tilt and space in the top of my neck as my hands come back behind me. Maybe taking a breath in there, maybe kind of letting the ribs flare just a little bit. Exhale as you circle, feeling the abdominals draw in. So it's not that we want that movement to come from the low back, not that we're trying to flare the rib cage too much, but that you can feel as the shoulders tilt, that it allows the sternum to lift just slightly. And exhale as you circle. Couple more here. And circle. You get to choose how wide the elbows, so you're feeling into your own shoulder range, doing what feels good for your shoulders. And maybe a total of about 8 repetitions here. It doesn't have to be too many. And opening out to the sides and circling around. Okay, this one is single leg toe taps with our pelvis supported up on a prop. We can do this on a gurney ball, we can do this on a foam roller, we can do this with just a small lift, anything that's going to kind of challenge the pelvis to keep its stability and integrity. So the way to get into this one is to have your prop either sitting off by your sides or below your hips. And I'm going to lift my hips up into a bridge. And then I'm going to take the prop and just roll it right underneath the sacrum. Okay. So you'd want to kind of find a prop that feels like that's an easy thing to accomplish. So you don't want to feel like it's too high up. With this, we're going to take the ribs and pull the ribs down. Keep engaging the abdominals so you're feeling this rib to hip connection here. If you're on the foam roller, your hands can cup the sides of the roller so that make sure it's even right to left. Now feel a little bit of this internal rotation with the thighs. So inner thighs are rolling down towards the floor, almost like you're squeezing something with the knees, right? Take a breath in and exhale. We're taking that right leg up to tabletop. Inhale as you lower and tap the floor. Exhale as you lift it back up. Shoulders relaxed. You can even take the palms up towards the ceiling if you like. And you're just looking to feel that sense of the abdominal support the whole time. And the breath stretching into the side ribs and chest. Inhale as you lower, keeping some belly strength. Exhale. Inhale into the side ribs. Neck relaxed. Total of about 8 to 10, maybe even 12 or 15 repetitions on each side. And then you're just going to set your foot down and switch and do 8 to 10 repetitions, maybe even more like 12 to 15 on side 2. Notice if one side, so my left leg is working now. The tendency with the left leg high is going to be to kind of lift the right side of the pelvis up and put more weight into your left side. So that's what you're feeling with the prop. Pressing down into that right hip, making sure that roller's not getting away from you, and making sure that right leg is still in line. So a little bit of inner thigh work on that right leg, anchoring the right side sit bone down, right side of the pelvis, breathing into side ribs, keeping that scoop on with the belly. So at no point do you go sway back in the low back. We're keeping that support on without trying to feel like you're holding the breath. So still this sense of breathing, right? And then I'm setting my left foot down, and to come out of it, I'm going to lift my hips and scooch the roller down so that as I roll down, there's this sense of lengthening the spine when you land. Okay, so here is our side glutes with our legs in tabletop. I'm using the front edge of the mat for a little bit of a ruler. So I've got my shins, my knees, and my feet all kind of parallel and in line with this front edge of the mat. And then I'm looking to see that my legs are kind of perfectly perpendicular to that. So I've got 90-degree angle at the hip and a 90-degree angle at the knee. With that, I'm careful that I'm not too rounded in the low back. So I am looking to find just this nice length in the waistline And with that length in the waistline, there's some support still with the ribs pulling in and some abdominal support here. The first one, I'm just going to lift and lower my whole left leg. So my foot, knee, and shin are lifting and lowering at the same moment. And kind of 8 to 12 repetitions here for this one. You could certainly do this with ankle weight around your left ankle. All right, you could do this with a little weight on top of the knee. Bottom leg relaxing down, so careful not to push down into the bottom leg. And the abdominals are on. You can watch the knees land on top of each other. And if anything, this top knee is pushing forward so that when you lift, you're not twisting or rolling back. So this would be what not to do. Very common, I'm exaggerating, but very common to get a little bit of that pull back. So if anything, you're trying to push your knee forward and scoop the abdominals as you lift. After you've done about 8 to 12 of those, we're going to hold and we're going to do little circles, 5 to 8 in each direction. And I'm really circling from the thigh bone. So my whole leg is kind of moving as one unit, right? So 5 to 8 in each direction, and then you're switching and going the other way. And just like that. And then pause. The foot sometimes likes to do some funny things. So you can kind of look and see that your foot is in line with the rest of your leg, kind of like you're just standing on the ground. Flexing the foot now and thinking about the pads of the foot. So big toe mound, pinky toe mound. Imagine there's floor under your foot, right? The abdominals are on, the waist is long, and you're going to push through that foot, pointing the toes. And then as your leg comes forward, foot comes forward, and you flex the foot. Inhale. Exhale, I'm pushing to a straight leg and then pressing that straight leg back behind me so that there's a little bit of this feeling of the foot coming behind the point of the hip. The pelvis itself stays still. Knee comes forward, foot comes forward. Inhale. And exhale as you press through the foot and point. And about, again, 8 to 12 like that. Counting your own repetitions. So, see how difficult it is for you. If you're fatigued at 8, I would stop at 8. Quality over quantity. And then you're going to rest and you're going to flip over and do that on your other side. Okay, so this one is a sequence that I like to teach with the towel, a little bit of a bridge sequence with the towel. You're going to grab just a regular hand towel and you're going to fold it so that you're kind of folding it and you've got maybe like a 2-inch strip there. Okay. And then I'm going to come down onto the mat into a bridge position. And I'm going to lift the hips and I'm going to take the towel and I'm going to find kind of just the bottom of the rib cage. So right where the ribs end and the low back begins, right at that spot. And I'm going to place the towel there so that I can kind of drop the ribs and I can feel the back of my ribs pushing into the prop. Okay. So you can kind of find the sweet spot for you. We're going to keep the ribs down as you now try to push the hips up. So I'm trying to get as much lift up in the pelvis as I can without losing the ribs. The ribs are pushing down. Options with your arms here. The arms could be out towards the sides, palms up. Careful not to get too much of this kind of pulling the shoulders up in your effort to get your ribs down. So kind of shoulders, neck relaxed. You could put a pillow there if you need it, right? Another option with the arms is to reach the arms up, right? And with the arms reaching up, the neck is relaxed, but you can use a little bit of a reach with the arms to help sink the ribs down. Your choice, okay? So once we find this position, step 1 is just 5 deep breaths. What you're looking to feel is that you can keep the abdominals on. Try not to breathe into the belly. And instead, you're going to send the breath out into the side ribs and down into the towel. So I'm literally going to try to breathe in to the towel and feel the back of my ribs push into the towel while I breathe in. It's a little hard to talk at the same time, so I'm going to take 5 breaths now and just go through it. Sometimes in our effort to breathe into the ribs, sometimes the breath comes into the throat or the neck. So careful not to use your neck for that either. So 5 breaths there. Once you've done 5 breaths, you can rest your hips down, take a moment if you need it. Just kind of careful here that this prop isn't too high or throwing you into something that feels uncomfortable for your back when you rest your hips. Not necessarily bad to live in this position either. We want to have access to both. So we're coming back up, tucking the tail, sinking the ribs, and lifting just until you feel that spot where the hips are as high as they can be. The tail is tucking towards the heels without over gripping in the back of the sit bones or the tailbone or anything. And I'm just going to add a little heel lift. So I'm just going to exhale and lift the heels up, and then try to keep the hips high and the ribs low as I inhale. Exhale. Inhale down. Exhale up. Again, maybe 8 to 12 repetitions like that. And then our final variation here is to lower the hips a little bit and exhale, lift them back up. Inhale down, exhale up. And you're still trying to breathe into the side ribs and back ribs as you breathe in. Once you're done with that, you can take the prop or the towel out of the way and take a nice long exhale to roll down. And maybe give yourself a little moment to rest before coming up. So maybe a little sway of the legs. Just a little moment to let your back rest. Okay, this one I call the push-pull. You can do this with your hands up on a countertop or a table if it's not comfortable for your knees, ankles, or hips to sit on your heels like this. So your choice. It's mainly focusing on your hands, elbows, upper body, shoulder connection. The simplest way to start is to literally just feel the muscles that are involved in pushing. So I'm going to push my hands away from the knees. They're stuck on the sticky mat, so they're not actually going to move, but I am pushing quite a bit. All right. As I push, I can feel how it's kind of making my back round. And I'm going to draw my nose towards my belly button and scoop the low belly. And then I'm going to relax and come back to the middle. And now I'm going to pull with my arms like I'm going to drag myself forward. Now, sometimes that makes people just drop, but there's a difference between dropping down towards the floor and pulling, right? So I'm pulling towards the knees, and that's going to drag the sternum forward in space and also tilt my rib cage up. As the rib cage in the front of the chest tilts upwards, I can feel my shoulders going down the back, kind of like a cape. That's your pull. Exhale to push. And inhale to pull. Sometimes if you get confused, it can be helpful to just stop in the middle between each repetition. So from the middle, you're pushing. And then back to the middle. And then from the middle, you're pulling. And back to the middle. As you push, you can think about the inside crease of the elbow rotating in towards the belly button and a little more pressure coming to the index finger and thumb. So there's an internal rotation as I push. You might notice how that gives you more space across your back line. Relax back to the middle. And then feel as you pull, the elbows come in towards the hips. So not out towards the sides, but you're rotating the elbows back towards you so that it's almost as if the crease of the elbow here is going to rotate forward. That's an external rotation in the arm. And that's going to feel like it should connect you into a little bit more of the back of your armpit musculature and shoulder blades coming towards each other at the bottom tip. And that's going to lift the sternum up and drop the shoulders down the back. Exhale to round. Creases of the elbows rotating in towards each other and back towards the belly button. Weight to the index finger and thumb. As you pull, weight to the pinky side of the hand. Elbows coming towards each other. Trying not to use your low back too much. Okay, so this is our wrist push-up. You can start in this position. You can do this with your hands up on a countertop if it's not comfortable for your knees, feet, or hips to be in this position. So you can really choose and modify how much weight you've got coming into your hands here. I'm going to think about the base of the knuckles, base of the thumbs, staying anchored to the floor. And I'm just going to lift right from the crease of the wrist, right at the very base of the wrist. I'm going to lift and lower. Exhale to lift, inhale to lower. The thing that I see most often is one, that you kind of separate your arms from your torso. So what I'm looking for here is not only the movement in the wrist, but the connection to that strength in your upper body and shoulder so that your hands are actually lifting the weight of your torso, just that little inch. Okay? As many as feels okay for your hands, and then you just shake it out. Now, if that's going well, you're going to take it forward to hands and knees. If that's not going well, I would use a countertop. Okay, kind of the step between these two is to tuck the toes and be somewhere in between. So it's all just going to be different amounts of weight on the hands. Same thing here. You're feeling that you're lifted up away from the floor. Head is not dropping down. Belly is not sway backed. And exhale to lift the base of the wrists. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Back and forth like that. This is not terribly easy. You'll know it's a little too hard if you feel like you really have to pull the weight back, or almost if you feel like you're bracing somewhere around your hips, just in your effort to kind of get your arms up, or if you feel like you have to do one and then the other, right? So try to find your sweet spot, even if you have to pull the hips back a little bit, where you can do this with a nice, good, balanced integrity. If all of that's going really well, you're going to try to go for double time. Lift, 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 lift. And should give you a good little workout right in your forearms. Okay, this one is a prone back extension exercise with your belly on the ball. You could think of it as a baby swan from Pilates, or like a baby cobra, Bhujangasana from yoga. I'm going to do this version with the knees down, although you can also do this with the legs straight. I'm starting with the ball just a little bit away from my hips, kind of in a kneeling position. And then I'm just going to slowly control myself down onto the ball and bring my hands down onto the floor. And from here, you might notice you need to scooch back or forward. You'll kind of find the sweet spot as you're there. You're trying to feel that you can, one, press the hips forward, tuck the tail without necessarily just sliding backwards. So kind of adjust with your mat. You could put your feet into a wall if you need to, if you're sliding backwards. Right? So I'm pushing the hips into the ball, feeling that sort of sense of the low belly activating away from where the ball is, but the tailbone dropping and the back of my hamstrings a little bit active. Hands can be on the floor for a little bit of support if it's a little bit wobbly. Your knees could come wider if you need to, or you can also take your hands up onto the ball here if you it's going to kind of just challenge the shoulder alignment a little bit more. So I'll show a couple from each position. To start with, you're going to round your back, let your head just hang. Let your upper body drape into the ball. Let your weight be held by the ball. And then with my inhale, I'm going to start from my head. I'm lifting my head, but keeping some space in the back of the neck so that then I start to lift my upper back. The abdominals are on, the pelvis is pushing into the ball so that I kind of only get as high as I get using the strength of the upper back without too much arch in the low back. So no sway back feeling here in the lower back. And gently lower back down. I'm a little bit pulling with my arms, right? So here we're trying to create that back bend shape in the upper back, not just the back of the neck. So see which muscles you feel working. I'm a little bit pulling with my hands to try to draw my sternum forward of the ball and push my hips into the ball. And then exhale as you lower back down. And the version with the hands up on the ball now, the elbows start a little bit higher, kind of like a grasshopper leg. But my elbows are going to come down towards the floor as I lift head, neck, and shoulders. So I think of that as sort of like a teeter-totter motion happening in the elbows drawing down, sternum lifting forward and up. And exhale as you lower. You could also tuck the toes if that helps. And press the hips into the ball. And as you lift, the elbows drop. And then you lower. So what we're not doing is we're not pushing down into the ball. I'm not pushing down as much as I'm searching for that pulling. If my hands did a motion, they would do this. So that's kind of the action that I'm doing, but just with stable hands. So I'm trying to glide my hands up the ball like I'm pulling the ball towards my belly button. Exhale as you lower back down. And at the end, it can feel quite nice to hang. You can even let your knees come off the ball. Maybe walk your hands forward and just let yourself hang. Hanging on the ball is a wonderful way to decompress the low back. Release that posterior fascial line. Lots of heavy, thick fascia and connective tissue in the lower back. Imagine your shoulders, your jaw, everything relaxing. And just carefully making your way out of that when you're done. Arms can be by your sides. And you're using this to feel your midline. So sometimes it can be nice to lift your head and look down at the feet. Obviously, you can't see the feet, but can you get a sense if the feet are pointing straight forward, if the knees and the pelvis, everything's nice and aligned? And then lowering your head back down. Okay, also feeling where the roller is landing on the spine. So using that to notice if you've kind of got one hip that's a little lower or one shoulder that's a little lower. Nice breath in, and with the exhale, we're just going to lift the heels and inhale as you lower back down. As I lower and lift, I'm really sending the breath into the side ribs and keeping some of this toning on the low belly so that as you inhale and lower the heels, you're not just completely letting go of the effort. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower.